We'll start with the developer experience. We'll go through a recording and mapping session and talk about some of the advanced features that we have within Winshuttle Studio. So let me hop over to Studio right now. This is our Studio product. It's our version 11 Studio product for those that might be using Winshuttle and potentially an older version. And we can create what we call scripts. And when you hear the term script, it's just an SAP interaction. So you can leverage the SAP transactions, you can do extracts using our query tool, and you can leverage BAPIs and remote-enabled function modules, all again to either push or pull data to or from SAP. So today I'm going to start off by creating a transaction script, and when we do that, we'll create a recording. And for those of you that have created LSMW scripts, this will look a little bit familiar, and then you'll find that a lot of the steps are quite different. So I'm going to log on to an SAP system, and I'm using SAP Security. We support portal-based and single sign-on as well, and it's going to make sure that I have access to the SAP system. And you'll want to do this against a non-production system because we'll need to run through the transaction itself, and in this case we're going to be making changes. So the second part of the authentication and verification is that I have access to the T-code itself. So I'll put in the T-code, I'm going to map this to Excel, and I'll start my recording. And it makes sure that I have access, and then it opens up SAP to walk through the recording. And in order to create one of these, all you have to do is know the T-code, the data that you want to, in this case, change, and know some data. So I'll go ahead and fill in a material number. So best practice is here to deselect all of the default views, and then we'll go ahead and select one of the views. And then the process is simply just overtyping and making changes to any of the data that we want to capture as part of the script. Again, the script is an SAP interaction. So I'm just tabbing, I'm adding spaces in a couple of places. I'll put in division. Again, I could go through all of these. I'll go through gross weight, weight unit, and net weight. And once I've finished with one particular view, as they call it here in the Material Master, I can go to any of the other views. And just as a note, this works for any kind of master data as well as transactional data. So I can come in here with the industry standard description, the basic material, maybe the document number, type, and version. Oops. And when I'm done, I'm just going to come back here to this initial view and click Save. So I could have walked through quite a number of views and pieces of information here in the Material Master, but I just wanted to select a small subset to give you an idea. So once we finish with the recording step, we'll soon be able to go to the map step. So it's a record, it's a map, and a run. And so it's collecting all the information from the transaction we went to, the screens we went to, and the fields we touched, and now it's going to present us an option to map this to an Excel file, which is what we chose to map it to. And this is directional, so I can take these message fields and drag them down. So the first row will go to column A, that will be my SAP message. The second column will be our validate log, we'll talk about that in a minute. And then the rest of these will be upload. So I want column C, now I'm going to drag it up to row 3 and let go, and that means column C will contain my material numbers and it will be an upload. We can either leave values fixed, upload, or download from SAP. So the checkbox is where we selected the basic view. I can leave that alone and leave it fixed, and then I can select the rest of these and map them in the order in which they came. And it's just gone ahead and mapped them D, E, F, G all the way to N. So the other way to map these is we have an auto map, so it takes everything that you've covered and automatically maps it. So quite easy. And then we can come over here and do a run. Before I do that, I actually have to save. So I want to save this to my desktop. And I'll call it the MMO2 LSMW webinar. So that's for my Excel file, and I can do the same thing for the script. Again, when I say script, it's just an SAP interaction, and I'll have that go to my desktop as well. And I want to save both. And then what I can do is either run it, and that's using the test button. I'll talk about why it's test in a minute. Or I can do validate, and I want to do validate first. So what validate does is when I first learned SAP, they just said Sigrid, fill in the screen, and hit enter until all the messages go away, whether they're error messages or warning messages. And if there aren't any errors, you'll get success. And if there are errors, you'll get the error message. So let me come in here and plant one. So I'll put in an invalid weight unit, and let me validate again. Again, remember, it's not posting, it's just checking the data. So it basically goes in and fills in the values that I went to the screens that I visited, and it gives me the error message that unit BB is not correct. So, all right, pretty good so far, and if I know the value to correct it, I can type it. If I don't, we provide an option to do, it's equivalent of F4 lookup, and you can come in here and scroll through the various options and find the weight unit that you want and replace it. So if I save this now and set it up so that the end users ran it, it would be pretty good, but it's not good enough yet. So a couple of things I want to do. I want to come in here and resize some of the columns. So making it look nice and easy for end users is a part of it. And then what I want to do is come back and add some additional, basically error checking. So we have the option in here to make, if I click on a particular row for a field, I can make that field required. You can also click on this little asterisk right here. So I'm making the fields required, and it's basically going to make sure that those columns are filled in before it actually ever tries to hit SAP. So these fields are required, but there are fields that aren't required typically in a standard SAP system, and so you may not want to customize your SAP system to make them required, so I'll just make them required here in the script. So that means they have to fill these in, or they can't even touch SAP. It'll do a local check before it checks against SAP, whether we're validating or trying to post it. Another option we have is SAP has a lot of different values for many fields. And so I can come in here and choose an operator to make sure that the values are correct. And in this case, I want to limit them. I'm going to provide a list. So I'll put in pound. And we can import this from various sources, including SAP. And we'll do grams and kilograms. So now what I'm doing is, even though SAP provides me tons of options, I want to limit the number of options. And then when I give this to the business users, whatever these validation or constriction rules, if you will, to be able to restrict what values get selected will be applied. So again, you're trying to make this as error-proof as possible. So now I can come over here and again try to validate. You'll see some of these columns have asterisk, which means that they're required. So let me blank one of the values out, and if I validate, it's first going to do the local checking, anything that I've built into this script, and it will tell me here that there's a required value missing in G2. Whoops, I just went page down, forgive me. Here we go, we'll hop over to G2. So now the value will be okay. And if I wanted to put in another value, so maybe this is pallets, I can, no, not pallets, let me go with ounces. So I can go ahead and validate again. So now all the values are filled in, but the value might be not from the list. So here it's telling me it has to be in the list. And so now when I do a lookup, instead of getting that long list from SAP, I'll get my short list, so I'll be able to pick it and be able to pick the value, and now we know that that's only from the valid list. So that's also, pretty good, and we've got all this, and we know it's working. We have required fields, we have some of the values constrained, but there's another option that I want to enable, and that's to add long text. And if you were watching me do the recording, you didn't see me go to the long text anywhere, and I didn't have to. So I can just come in here and pick the long text that I want, or multiple long text fields. So I'll go ahead and click OK. And you'll see I have a number of additional fields. So one of them is the material number again, and so I want to upload that, and I want to reuse this material number in column C. So I'll just go ahead and choose column C. So now that's material number to do the update, but it's also material number for the long text. And then I want to come over here at the end and add a long text column. So I'll upload long text from column O. I could also download long text so I could read it. And then there's an additional message field, so we'll drag that down and I'll put it in column P. And now what I want to do is add some long text. Whoops, that's not the value I wanted. Give me a second. Instead of typing it all, I have it here. So I don't have to break this up into 72 characters. I can basically wrap it. So now we can validate again, make sure that our data is complete and correct. And then we haven't done this yet, but now we can post. So when we post, we'll get a message here in column A, which is our run log. And in this case, I didn't make any changes. And I can come over here and see an additional message that says the text was saved. So good to go. So what I want to do is actually make this now available for the end users. And I like putting in one row of test data basically so that the end users know how to use this. So we can come over to here and submit this to Foundation. This is our user governance site. We'll talk about it again in a little while. So this is our script name. We can put in an additional description. I'm going to click Next. It doesn't like the dot here, so I'll go ahead and correct that data file name, and it's going to land in our data templates library. We could add on the next step some supporting information like a description. You could also add an additional sheet and put descriptions and usage information in there. And then we'll submit this to our user governance site. Now this is an optional product, but it's one way to set up a centralized shared place of these scripts and templates. Again, those are just SAP interactions. And if we hop over to user governance, we'll come over here and take a look and see that our script was actually uploaded. This is our user governance site. And I'm going to hop over here. I think it's going to be at the bottom of our list. I can also do a search for the particular name. So here it is, and you'll notice there's a status field. So right now, if somebody were to stumble on this script and template, they could run it, but they could only run it against a non-production system. So there's the script, and if we go over to our data templates, we'll also see a list of data templates, and this is where the end users can find them, and this is where the template is. So let me hop back over here to Studio because there's an additional step with user governance. I'll have a task where I have to ask for a reviewer, and this is typically where IT would come in, so IT can review it, and I'm going to choose myself just for demo purposes, but you can disable that. And then you can have the data file itself also go through a review process, so you can either have no data review, a one-step process where the approver posts, or an additional process where you submit it for an approval and it comes back to you to post. Or you can set up a custom workflow, and that's using our Foundation. We're going to choose no data review, so a reviewer and then the data review process and complete the task. And then since I'm the reviewer, I'll have an additional task now where I can open the script, test it out, make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do and not doing what it's not supposed to do, and then once I'm okay with it, I can click Approve. So went ahead and approved it, and if I go back here now to my transaction scripts and I search for MMO2, there it is, and you'll see I'm the reviewer, and it's now in production status. So if I came here, I've connected in Excel here, I've connected to our user governance site, and when I do that, I have this additional tab where I can come in and I can find my template. So now I'm from the end user perspective. I can pick it, it'll open it up, and if for some reason I created this a month ago and it's changed in between, it's going to let me know that there's a newer version and that I need to download it before I can actually post anything to SAP. So you'll see here that I have a run button because it's been approved, so now I can run it against an SAP system. And you already saw me run it. I can also do validations. And really that's what it takes in order to develop it, to approve it, and then to run it.